The night on Ref 9 was cold, silent, and lonely. Jonas, a simple human mechanic, was working outside his small metal workshop, fixing a broken generator that kept making strange noises. He lived far from the main town, close to the empty desert, where the wind always carried sand and secrets. He liked quiet nights, because nothing surprising ever happened to him. But this night was different. This night was the beginning of a story he never expected. Jonas was tightening a bolt when he suddenly heard a soft voice behind him. At first he thought it was the wind, but then the voice spoke again, shaking and weak. "Human, please, marry my sister." Jonas froze, confused. He turned around slowly and saw a small figure standing in the darkness. It was a young alien girl, maybe 12 or 13 years old. Her skin was pale silver, her hair a soft blue, and her eyes glowing bright orange. In the dark, she held a broken metal cane, and her clothes looked torn and dirty. She was breathing hard, as if she had been walking for many miles. Before Jonas could even speak, the girl pointed behind her. A hover cart was parked on the ground, covered with an old blanket. Something, or someone, was lying under it. The girl's voice broke as she said, "Please, marry my sister. She has no legs. She cannot walk away from you. Humans are kind. You will keep her safe." Jonas felt his heart beat faster. He stepped closer to the cart and gently lifted the edge of the blanket. Under it lay a beautiful alien woman, older than the girl. Her skin shining faintly like silver glass. Her hair was long and soft, falling over her shoulders. But her legs, they were gone from the knees down, wrapped in rough cloth as if someone had tried to cover the wounds quickly. The woman's eyes slowly opened. Weak and sad, she whispered, "I'm sorry. My sister is desperate. She shouldn't have asked you this." Jonas did not understand anything. Why were two alien sisters outside his house at night? Why would they ask him something so strange and desperate? Why were they injured, dirty, and shaking? Before he could ask anything, a sudden sound filled the sky, a sharp humming noise, like engines cutting through the air. Jonas looked up and saw bright lights moving fast across the clouds. Small alien hunter ships scanning the ground with red beams. The young girl grabbed Jonas' hand in fear. "They are looking for us. If they find us, they will take my sister back. They will hurt her more. Please, human, help us." Jonas felt something heavy inside him. He knew those ships belonged to slave hunters or bounty clans. If the sisters were running from them, the danger was real. The older sister on the cart whispered, her voice weak and scared, "If you help us, you will be in danger too. Please leave us. Don't risk your life." But Jonas could see her eyes, full of pain and hopelessness. He saw the younger girl's hands shaking as she tried to protect her sister. He could not leave them outside. Like this, he could not pretend he never saw them. The hunter ships were getting closer, their lights sweeping over the desert. The engines grew louder, almost above his house. Jonas made a fast choice, a choice that changed everything. "Come inside," he said. His voice was firm, stronger than he expected. "Both of you now," the young girl gasped, then pushed the hover cart toward the workshop door. Jonas helped lift the older sister in, carefully. He closed the heavy metal door and locked it just as the hunter lights flashed outside. He turned off all lights and stood in the dark with the two alien sisters he had just chosen to protect. Outside, the hunter ships hovered low, scanning, searching. Inside, Jonas felt his heart racing. He knew he had just stepped into a danger he did not understand. But he also knew something else. Tonight, he could not let them face this alone. This was the night his quiet life ended, and a new dangerous story began. Inside the dark workshop, Jonas lit a small emergency lamp. Its soft yellow light filled the room and showed the sisters clearly for the first time. The younger girl sat close to her older sister, holding her hand tightly as if afraid someone would pull her away. Jonas could see fear in both their eyes, but also trust in him, a stranger they met only minutes ago. Jonas took a slow breath and spoke gently. "My name is Jonas," he said. "You don't need to be scared here. But I need to understand what happened to you both." The younger girl looked at her sister first, asking silently if she should speak. The older sister nodded softly, even though she looked exhausted. So the younger girl began, her voice small and shaking. "My name is Miri, and this is my sister Lyra," she said. She cannot walk anymore because of what happened to her in the factory." Lyra lowered her eyes, ashamed. Jonas sat on a crate near them, listening carefully. Miri continued, "Lyra worked in a metal factory on our planet. She always worked hard. But one day, a machine fell, and it crushed her legs." Jonas felt a painful twist in his chest. He looked at Lyra's bandaged legs, now wrapped in rough cloth. He could tell the wounds were old but treated badly, like no one cared for her. But the story was darker. Miri swallowed hard before speaking again. "In our clan, if someone becomes disabled, they say that person has no value," she whispered. "They think helping them is a waste of food, a waste of money, a waste of time." Lyra's eyes filled with shame again. Jonas felt anger rising inside him, not at the sisters, but at the cruel world they came from. Miri continued, her voice breaking. "After the accident, they told me my sister would be sold, or left outside the gates to die." Lyra closed her eyes. Jonas clenched his fists. Who would treat their own people like this? "That night," Miri said, "I took a transport cart and hid Lyra under blankets. I stole food, and we ran away from our clan." Jonas listened, but he knew there was still something missing. Running away was brave, yes, but why would they run to a human? Why choose him? Why search so far? He asked gently, "How did you find me? A human? Out here in the desert?" Miri looked at him with tired, glowing eyes. "We heard humans are different," she whispered. "We heard humans don't throw away people who can't walk. Humans help. Humans protect." She looked at Lyra, who seemed too weak to speak. "So I searched for a human who lived alone, someone who might help us, someone with a kind heart." Jonas felt something heavy and warm in his chest. These sisters had crossed deserts, risked hunters, escaped their clan, all to find someone like him, someone they believed would not abandon them. But then Miri said something that explained everything. Lyra was almost taken by someone powerful, she whispered. "A commander bought her from the clan. He said he could use her, even without legs. He said she still has beauty, and he likes broken things." Jonah's stomach twisted in disgust. The hunter ship suddenly made sense. They weren't hunting both sisters, they were hunting Lyra. She was property to that commander, and he wanted her back. Lyra finally spoke for the first time, her voice soft and full of pain. "I did not want to belong to him. I begged to be released. So Miri ran with me." She looked at Jonas with tired but honest eyes. "We did not come to trouble you. We only wanted to find a place where I was not a burden, where I was not unwanted." Jonas looked at the broken generator, the tools on the table, the metal walls of his workshop. He was just a mechanic, not a hero, not a soldier, not a fighter. But in that moment, he understood something clearly. He could not let the world treat these sisters like objects. Jonas stood up slowly and said, "You're safe here, and I'm not letting anyone take either of you." Miri's eyes widened, Lyra's lips trembled. They had found hope, not in their clan, not in their world, but in a simple human who finally stood on their side, and outside, in the cold night, the hunters circled again, this time knowing their target was close, this time ready for war. And Jonas would soon have to choose again, fight or lose the sisters forever. The night grew colder as the hunters' ships passed over the workshop again. Jonas stood still, listening to the distant hum of their engines while Miri and Lyra watched him with worried eyes. He knew the danger was not gone, it was only beginning, and now, without expecting it, he had become part of it. Jonas turned to the sisters. You both need food and rest, he said quietly. His voice was soft, but the decision inside him was strong. He could walk away from this, or he could stay and protect them. And deep inside, he knew he had already chosen. He helped Lyra sit comfortably on a blanket near the heater. She winced from pain but gave him a grateful smile. Jonas noticed she tried to hide her discomfort, as if she didn't want to trouble him. He shook his head gently. You don't need to pretend here, he said. You're safe. Lyra lowered her eyes. Touched by his kindness, Miri sat next to her, refusing to leave her sister even for a moment. Jonas prepared warm soup and bread, simple food. But the sisters ate it like they had not eaten well in days. Miri kept thanking him between bites, while Lyra stayed quiet, watching Jonas with eyes full of mixed emotions, fear, hope, and something she didn't fully understand yet. When they finished eating, Jonas finally asked the question that had been pressing his mind. What does this commander want with Lyra? Why chase her this far? Miri looked down, but Lyra answered herself. He said I was beautiful, she whispered, even without my legs. He said I was a rare treasure, and he wanted to keep me while he ruled. Her voice grew heavy. I told him I didn't want to belong to anyone. He didn't like that. Jonas felt anger rise inside him again. Lyra's gentle voice made the pain behind her words even sharper. Miri added, he sent hunters after us. He wants to prove no one can escape him. She clenched her fists. He takes what he wants. He hurts what he wants. But he will not take my sister again. Jonas watched the two sisters, one broken physically, the other fighting the world alone for her sibling. He realized something important. They were not only running from danger, they were running toward hope, and somehow, without knowing it, they had chosen him to be that hope. Jonas stood and walked to his workbench. He looked at the tools, wires, metal frames, welding machines, all the things he used to repair broken machines, not protect people. But now he needed to do more. He turned back to Lyra. You're not going anywhere, he said firmly. Not back to that commander. Not to anyone who thinks you're worthless. He looked at Miri. You both stay here. I'll protect you with everything I have. Miri's eyes filled with tears, the first tears of relief in many days. Lyra looked stunned, almost unable to believe his words. You don't even know us, she whispered. Why would you risk your life for us? Jonas paused for a moment, then said something simple and honest. Because no one deserves to be thrown away. And because you asked me for help, and I won't ignore that. Inside the workshop, a quiet strength grew in the air. Jonas wasn't a fighter, but he had a heart stronger than steel. And sometimes, kindness was its own kind of power. But outside, danger moved closer. The hunter ships returned with sharper scanners, and distant engines vibrated the desert ground. They were searching house by house. Every minute brought the commander's men closer. Jonas quickly covered the windows and reinforced the doors with metal bars. He placed tools near him, not weapons, but enough to defend if needed. Lyra watched him with new eyes. For the first time since losing her legs, she felt protected. For the first time since the accident, she felt like someone saw her value. And Miri, brave and loyal, moved to help Jonas. She handed him tools, held lights, and followed his instructions. Carefully, together, the three of them worked to turn the simple workshop into a safe place. But Jonas knew one truth clearly. The commander would not stop until he got what he wanted. And Jonas had already chosen his side. He would stand with the sisters. No matter what came next tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. But tonight, they were no longer alone. Morning on Wrath 9 came without warning. The sun rose fast and bright, shining on the dusty metal roofs of the workers' town. But Jonas' workshop stayed quiet and tense. The sisters slept lightly, waking every few minutes from fear. Jonas slept even less, always listening for engines, footsteps, or danger outside. When the first loud sound finally arrived, Jonas knew instantly. It was not a worker's truck, it was something heavier, stronger, and filled with trouble. A deep roar echoed across the sand as a large armored ship landed not far from his workshop. Dust shot up into the air, shaking the ground under his feet. Jonas looked out through the tiny gap in the metal window cover. His heart sank. The ship was dark red and covered with sharp metal plates. A symbol was painted on the side, a claw gripping a broken star. It was the mark of the commander. Miri woke up instantly, her eyes wide with terror. Lyra held her sister's hand tightly, though she herself was trembling. Jonas turned to them and spoke in a calm voice. Even though fear twisted inside him, he's here. But I won't let him take you. The ship door hissed open, and heavy armored boots hit the ground. Out stepped the commander, tall, muscular, covered in black and silver armor that made him look more machine than living being. His eyes were cold, glowing faintly blue, like someone who felt nothing, no fear, no regret, no mercy. Behind him marched 4 guards with rifles, scanning the area like hunters searching for prey. The commander looked around the empty desert, then at the workshop. He smiled, a sharp, cruel smile. "Human mechanic," he called loudly. "I know you're inside. Bring out the girl I paid for." His voice echoed like a threat carried by the wind. Miri flinched, gripping Lyra's arm harder. Lyra whispered, "Jonas, please don't face him alone. He is dangerous." Jonas shook his head. "You are under my roof. I won't hand you to anyone." The commander walked right up to the door and knocked, not politely, but with the force of someone who believed he owned everything he touched. "Do not make this difficult," he said. "A disabled girl has no value to you. She belongs to me. Return her, and I will leave you alive." Jonas felt anger burning inside him. This man didn't see Lyra as a person, only as something to own. Jonas unlocked the small viewing slit on the door and spoke through it. "She doesn't belong to you or anyone," Jonas said firmly. "She is a person. She chooses her own life." The commander laughed, a short, cruel sound. "A human speaking of choices on Wrath 9? He leaned close to the door. "You think her beauty is for free? You think I hunted her across the desert to hear your words?" He slammed his hand on the metal door, shaking it. "Bring her out now, or I will tear this building apart with my men." Miri whispered, "Jonas, he will hurt you." But Jonas shook his head. "No, he underestimates humans." He stepped back, took a breath, and opened the door halfway, enough to speak, not enough to let anyone inside. The commander stepped forward, towering over Jonas. He scanned Jonas slowly, as if judging him like a broken tool. "You are alone," the commander said. "You cannot protect her. You will lose everything if you stand in my way." Jonas stared back without fear. "I won't hand them over," he said. "Not now. Not ever." For a moment, silence filled the air. Then the commander's cold smile returned. "Very well," he said softly. "Break down the door," he ordered his guards. Jonas shut the door fast and locked it. Miri pulled Lyra deeper inside, her small hands trembling. Jonas grabbed tools, not weapons, but strong enough to defend. The guards began slamming the metal with heavy rifles, trying to force it open. The workshop shook with every hit. Dust fell from the ceiling. Machines rattled. Lyra's eyes filled with fear. "Jonas, you can still give me to him. Save yourself." Jonas turned to her. "I don't give away people," he said. "I protect them." Outside, the commander raised his hand, preparing to destroy the door completely. Inside, Jonas stood ready. Today he was not a simple mechanic. He was the shield between the sisters and a monster who would never stop. And the battle for Lyra's freedom was about to begin. The metal door shook again as the guards outside slammed it with full force. Each impact echoed through the workshop like thunder. Lyra held Miri tightly, and Miri covered her ears, trying not to cry. Jonas stood in front of them, gripping a heavy wrench like it was a sword. He wasn't a fighter, but today he had to be one. Outside, the commander's voice cut through the noise. "Break it, you fools! The girl is inside. I want her alive." Jonas took a deep breath and whispered to the sisters, "Get behind the workbench. No matter what happens, stay low." Miri obeyed instantly, dragging Lyra to the far side of the workshop where metal crates gave some protection. The door cracked at the edges, the metal bending inward from the pressure. Jonas knew they were seconds away from breaking in. His heart pounded, but his hand stayed steady, the kind of steadiness he used when fixing dangerous machines. His mind worked fast, thinking not like a fighter, but like a mechanic. He ran to a large robotic arm used for lifting engines. With quick hands, he connected the wires to a power cell and aimed the arm at the door if they rushed in. This machine would be his first line of defense. Bang! The door finally swung open as two armored guards stormed inside with rifles raised, but they didn't expect a metal arm to strike them at full speed. Jonas hit the switch. The robotic arm slammed into the first guard's chest, sending him flying back into the sand outside. The second guard stumbled, confused, and Jonas grabbed a welding torch, lighting it with a sharp flame. "Back off!" Jonas shouted. The guard stepped away, the bright fire forcing him to retreat. Miri gasped in shock, not believing Jonas was actually fighting armed men with workshop machines. But the commander pushed forward, angry. "Useless idiots," he growled as he entered. His armor glowed with energy, and he raised his weapon toward Jonas. Jonas felt fear hit him like a punch. This was no ordinary enemy. This was someone who enjoyed breaking people, not just machines. The commander fired, but Jonas rolled behind a metal tool cabinet, sparks flying everywhere. Metal burned, tools dropped to the floor, and smoke filled the air. Lyra cried out when she saw Jonas fall behind the cabinet, but he quickly stood up again, coughing. He grabbed a thick steel pipe and swung it at the commander's leg. The hit made the commander stumble, but not fall. "You think you can fight me?" the commander said, laughing. "You are a human mechanic. I am trained for war." Jonas stepped back, breathing hard. "For a soldier, you're very scared of one injured woman," he said boldly. The commander's smile dropped instantly. Anger flashed in his cold eyes. He charged forward, but Jonas pressed a hidden floor pedal, a trap he built moments ago. A large crate of tools swung down from the ceiling, crashing into the commander's shoulder. The impact made even his heavy armor spark. He fell to one knee, roaring in frustration. "Lyra, now!" Jonas shouted. Lyra quickly crawled to the workshop console beside her. She used her hands to activate the defense locks Jonas set earlier. The doors behind the commander slammed shut automatically, trapping the guards outside. The commander tried to rise, but Miri, small but brave, threw a bucket of oil under his feet. He slipped, losing balance again. It wasn't much, but it was enough to slow him. Jonas used the moment to push a heavy engine block toward him. It hit the commander like a hammer, crushing him against the wall. He yelled in pain, sparks flying from his damaged armor. Still, he wasn't defeated. Men like him never stop easily, but he was weakened, and his army outside was locked out. Breathing hard, Jonas said, "Leave now, or next time you don't walk away." The commander glared at him, eyes burning with hate. "This is not over, human," he growled. "You cannot stop me forever. I will come back stronger. She is mine." Jonas stepped forward, face filled with quiet fury. "No," he said, "she is not yours. She never was." The commander crawled out of the workshop, his broken armor sparking as he dragged himself to his ship. He flew away, not defeated, but furious, planning his next move. Inside the workshop, silence returned at last. Miri rushed to Jonas and hugged him tightly. Lyra looked at him with tears in her eyes, tears of fear, shock, and something new. Something warm. Jonas had fought an army for them, and for the first time, Lyra felt safe. For the first time in many years, she felt seen, and for the first time in his life, Jonas felt he had something worth protecting. But he knew the commander would return, and next time, the fight would be even harder. After the commander fled, the workshop finally became quiet again. But it was not the same silence as before. It was the heavy, shaking silence that comes after danger. When the heart is still beating too fast and the breath is still uneven. Jonas sat on the floor, his back against a metal crate, his clothes covered in dust and oil. Miri ran to him and hugged him tightly, her small arms wrapping around his neck. "You didn't leave us," she whispered. "You really fought for us." Jonas smiled weakly and patted her head. "I told you. I don't give away people." His voice was tired but full of truth. Lyra watched them from where she sat near the console. Her silver eyes shined, not with fear this time, but with something softer, deeper. She looked at Jonas as if she was seeing him for the first time. "You risked your life," she said quietly, "for someone like me." "Why?" Jonas looked at her with gentle honesty. "You're not someone like you, Lyra," he said. "You're a person. You matter. You deserve safety, respect, and a life." Her lips trembled slightly. No one had spoken to her like this in a long time. Maybe never. Being broken, disabled, and cast aside had made her believe she had no value. But Jonas' words hit the deepest part of her heart. Miri sat beside her sister and said proudly, "I told you humans are different." Jonas chuckled softly. "I guess I have a lot to live up to, huh?" But soon, Jonas shifted into practical mode. The danger wasn't gone, only delayed. He knew the commander would return stronger, angrier, and with more soldiers. "We need to prepare," Jonas said, standing up slowly. "We don't have much time." Lyra and Miri watched as he pulled out tools, metal sheets, wires, and parts of old machines. Jonas wasn't just fixing things now. He was preparing for war. But he wasn't alone. Lyra spoke gently. "Let me help," Jonas turned to look at her, surprised. "You need rest." She shook her head. "No, I've rested enough. I want to do something. Anything." Her hands trembled, but her eyes were firm. Jonas realized she wasn't weak at all. She was stronger than anyone had ever allowed her to be. So he set up a small console, elevated on crates, so she could reach it from the ground. "Can you handle the security system?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "I used to run factory machines before the accident. I can do this." Her fingers moved over the controls with surprising skill. She learned fast, adjusting cameras, redirecting energy lines, activating barriers Jonas had never used before. Meanwhile, Miri fetched tools, helped carry parts, and even climbed small ladders to place sensors Jonas couldn't reach easily. She moved with purpose, brave, focused, determined. Together, the three of them transformed the workshop into something new, not just a place for machines, but a fortress for survival. As they worked, something else began to change. A bond grew between them, something warm and strong. Jonas felt it every time Lyra smiled softly at him, or Miri looked at him with complete trust. Late in the evening, Jonas walked to a small storage room, took out 2 heavy cases, and placed them on a table. Inside were metal pieces shaped carefully, almost like long curved shells. Lyra watched curiously. "What are those?" Jonas took a breath. "Prosthetic legs," he said. "I've been working on them for months, for no one. I just like building things that feel meaningful." Lyra's breath caught. For no one?" Jonas nodded, smiling warmly. "Maybe." They were waiting for the right person. Lyra felt her heart shake. She had given up the idea of ever standing again, ever moving freely again. But now Jonas was giving her something she thought had vanished forever. Hope. He adjusted the pieces, measured her legs carefully, and said, "It will take time. We'll have to test them, adjust them, maybe rebuild parts. But I won't stop until they fit you perfectly." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of pain, but of gratitude so deep it hurt. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. Jonas smiled softly. "I know," he said, "but I want to." Miri clapped excitedly. "I knew it. Humans fix hearts too." she said, bouncing happily, but as soft as this moment was. Danger was still outside, because far away, the commander stood inside his ship, staring at damaged armor. His anger boiling like fire, he swore he would return. With an army, with weapons, with fury, and when he came back, he would not be alone, and he would not leave without Lyra. But this time, Jonas, Lyra, and Miri would be ready, together. They were stronger than he ever expected, and the bond growing between them was the commander's greatest enemy, because some things cannot be broken: the courage to stand, the will to protect, and the beginning of love. Asterisk. Night fell on Wrath 9 again, but it was not like the night before. This time, the air felt tight and heavy, like the whole desert was holding its breath. Jonas, Lyra, and Miri stood in the workshop, surrounded by machines they had prepared for the coming storm. Jonas checked every wire, every tool, every lock. Lyra tested the security system again, her fingers steady even though her heart raced. Miri climbed onto a crate and looked through the small window slit. The sky was too quiet, and that was the dangerous part. Jonas, Miri whispered. They're coming. Jonas walked to the window and looked up. Dozens of lights appeared in the distance, not one ship, but many, a whole group of armed fighters, flying low like a swarm of angry insects. The commander had returned, stronger, angrier, and ready to take Lyra by force. Lyra felt fear rise in her chest. Her hands shook slightly, but she pressed them together and stayed calm. She wasn't alone anymore. She had Jonas beside her, and she trusted him. The ships landed around the workshop, surrounding it completely. The commander stepped out of the largest ship, his armor repaired and glowing with bright energy. This time he wasn't smiling. His face was tight with pure hatred. He raised a loudspeaker and shouted, "Human, I gave you a chance. Bring out the girl, or every living thing in this building will burn." Jonas stood between the sisters and the door. "You can threaten me," he said quietly, "but you will not touch them." The commander signaled his soldiers, "Break everything," he ordered, "and bring her out alive." The attack began. Blasts hit the workshop walls, shaking the foundation. Metal bent, sparks flew, and dust filled the air. But Jonas' defenses held strong, at least for now inside. Jonas shouted, "Miri, switch the left barrier." Miri ran to the panel and hit the switch. A thick metal plate dropped from the ceiling, blocking the first wave of soldiers. Lyra activated the shock system she and Jonas had built. Electric currents shot through the floor, knocking several enemies off their feet. Jonas used his machines like weapons. Robotic arms swung like giant fists, throwing soldiers aside. Mechanical claws grabbed rifles and snapped them in half. But the enemy kept coming. There were too many, and the commander kept pushing forward, his face twisted with anger every time. His soldiers fell. At one point, the commander himself rushed into the workshop. He moved faster than before, driven by rage. He grabbed Jonas by the shirt and slammed him against a metal wall. "You will die for her," he screamed. Jonas felt pain shoot through his back, but he didn't give up. He grabbed a welding torch from the table and hit the commander's helmet with it. The bright flame made the commander stumble back in shock. Lyra screamed, "Jonas, move!" He rolled aside just as the commander swung a heavy blade. The blade sliced the wall instead of Jonas. Lyra activated a second defense system, a blast of compressed air. It hit the commander like a hammer and pushed him back toward the main door. Miri then used the oil trick again. She poured it under his feet. He slipped, fell, and his helmet cracked hard against the ground. Jonas didn't waste the chance. He grabbed a thick metal rod and used all his strength to knock the commander out cold. The soldiers outside saw their leader fall and froze in. Panic, without command, they rushed back to their ships and took off in fear, at last. Silence, real silence, not the uneasy kind, the peaceful kind. Jonas dropped the rod and fell to one knee, exhausted. Miri hugged him, crying, "You did it! You beat him!" Lyra moved toward Jonas, her new prosthetic legs attached but still. Untested for walking, she leaned on a crate and slowly stood, for the first time in a long time. She stood. Jonas looked up, amazed. "Lyra, you're standing." She took a small step toward him, her voice shaking. "I can do it. Because you believed I could." She reached him and touched his cheek softly. "You saved my life. My hope, my heart." Miri wiped her tears and suddenly declared, "Human, now marry my sister." Jonas blinked in shock. Lyra turned red as a sunset. "Miri," she whispered, embarrassed. But the little alien girl smiled proudly. "She can walk again. She can choose again. And she chooses you." Jonas looked at Lyra. Lyra looked at Jonas. And in that quiet moment, with danger gone and a new future glowing in their eyes, Jonas gently took her hand and said, "If you want, I would be honored." Lyra smiled through tears. "Yes," she whispered, "I want." Miri cheered loudly. The night sky above them sparkled with stars, and on that dusty desert planet, a new family was born, not because of blood, not because of fate, but because one human decided to protect two forgotten hearts, and love grew where pain once lived.